I put out a video on youtube.com/okdork recently. And the video is 3 businesses that I've seen other people start that blew my mind. That I was like, wow, anyone can do this. One guy was an accountant, lost his job, but he's always been a baker. So he started posting on his Facebook page like, hey, does anyone want chocolate chip cookies? And I think some of the most successful, fun, amazing large businesses are really just solving your own problems. And I think where people make mistakes a lot of times is they're like, oh, I heard on this podcast that this one guy did a business like this, so I'm going to copy that. And that could work, but I generally feel like that flames out versus, hey, I'm Jason. I really want to solve making better t-shirts, or I want to solve making better glasses, or I want a service that does this. And so I like that guy was like, yeah, I've always wanted to be a baker. Another one I saw, I think people like hearing examples because it kind of inspires things for them to go do. I think that and I'll give a few more examples, but one thing to really think about, especially during COVID, is that to start a business, people assume you have to take a lot of risk. You don't. You have to spend a lot of time. You don't. You have to spend a lot of money. You don't. Now more than ever, like you don't have to buy servers. You know, it's like crazy how easy it is to start any of these kind of websites. Like you can start a lot of these websites using Google Spreadsheets or Google Docs. Another business I saw was people were trying to do a new type of marketplace. You know how there's Airbnb in America, there's Turo, which is car rentals, RV share and outdoorsy are big on RVs. And I saw someone doing it for items, like local items. So they used Facebook Marketplace to list their backpacks, these like coolers and backpacks, and said, you can rent my cooler for $25. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and listed my bicycle to see if I could start, just to show as an example, a bicycle rental company. And I said, hey, it's $50 for this bike, a premium bike and all this stuff. And people started messaging me. I was like, it's pretty damn neat. The forced function that COVID has done to force people online, the idea that my mom knows what Zoom is kind of bonkers, right? If you think about that, it's forced people to kind of take a chance to look online for a lot of their actions. The great part about that is that if you're in Malaysia, if you're in India, if you're in Israel, if you're in Europe, if you're anywhere in the world, you can create a business that has a customer base of billions of people. And another business I saw that I thought was great was a book company. So it's called theadventurechallenge.com. And these guys created an adventure book. So if you have a relationship or a family, you can go do adventures together. So especially now while you're kind of stuck at home or you're not really wanting to interact with people, it's a great book that you go and you like do activities and you scratch it off. And I love the idea of that because you don't have to print a book. You don't have to do anything. What you really have to do to that is you can text a friend. This is what I did. I texted a friend, Anton. I said, hey, I'm just to show it to other people. I'm working on a relationship book, Anton. Here's 10 relationship activities I'm going to put in the book. Would you prepay $5? And once the book is done, I'll send it to you. And he's like, actually, I would prepay more than that. And I was like, oh shit, that's kind of wild. But I think the thing with starting businesses, just taking a step back on this is just a few examples of how to do them for free and fast, which I think is really important because you have to figure out what people want. And I've had the opposite thing where I've done a lot of things that no one wanted. But the real thing that most people need to figure out, and I still struggle with at times, is what do we really want? That's the part that's actually, no one, people are like, I want to run my own business. I'm like, well, why? Because I don't want this. Well, it's like, you can actually find a job that does all that, especially now because with COVID, you can work remotely. And so I think the thing that was interesting for me to reflect on with AppSumo, which is now, we have like, almost 100 people and it's like a $30 million plus business. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. Because when I started the company, my only purpose or my intent was to make $3,000 a month and work internationally. That was all I wanted. And that's pretty accessible. And so now it's kind of, it is revisiting, all right, well, what do I really want now? And how do I align myself to doing that? So I think that's the part that people need to spend more time on. And then starting the business stuff, I don't know, I generally find that not as hard. I think for businesses or life in general, the dream to me for everyone is, what do you get to wake up and do for free? That to me is the dream, right? Like I've been blogging on okdork.com for 20 years now. I don't ever really even make money on it. It just gives me a chance to meet cool people. And once in a while we'll do promotions, but that's very few and far between. So even if I never got paid for it, I would keep doing it. And I think that's kind of the question that we all need to really get into. And I think there's different generations. My parents' generation, yours probably as well. My dad was an engineer and my mom was a nurse. And I would say for the most part, they didn't love their jobs, but they're like, I got to do this another 20 years. I can retire at 60, which they did. And now they can enjoy, the rest of life, hopefully very long. But I think our generation is like, how do I enjoy now? And I think the easiest way to do that is just find the thing that you can work on for free. And that ultimately actually ends up making you a lot of money is what I found. So I've always liked marketing and promoting. And so I was like, oh, I could start a business that just does that. And somehow now I get to make money doing it. And I think there's a lot of different ideas around that. So like right now, I just got back. I look like crap. You guys can't see it on the podcast because I just did bike packing. It's where you put a camping equipment on your bike and then you bike whatever, and then you camp and then you bike back. So next year I'm biking across America. And so I'm just really into that. I'm really into like the gear and the weight and the routes. And to me, it's like, all right, well, I don't want to start more businesses per se. A lot of what our company does is help people create businesses. So how do we help we call them the underdogs or the sumolings. So either through YouTube or the different tools we create or the tools we promote, do that. But I think there's just unlimited amount of businesses to create. And so for me, I just try to, especially as I've gotten more money, to be frank, the more money I've gotten, the more I'm like, I really need to focus on what I want to do versus what I have to do. And so it's like, all right, well, next year I want to do a bike pack across America. All right, let's go into that. And I think the same thing goes for professional life, which is just keep going into what you want to do, not what you have to do. And if you have a day job, yeah, suck that up for a little while in the mornings, lunches, nights, weekends, you start the thing that really kind of gets you going, that you work on for free. I think what I find is if you reflect back on what you spend your free time doing and what gets you excited, like I've always been a promoter, and that's just something that I've always done. And so when I got the job at mint.com, they ended up selling for 200 million. I wasn't they hired me for marketing, and I never did marketing, quote unquote, before. But I was like, here's what I'll do for marketing. Here's how I'll organize it. And I came up with the plan, and they're like, oh, you seem pretty good at this. Why don't you go do that? Originally, I didn't even get the job because I brought a plan to them. They ended up hiring me and said, all right, do this plan. If you do it great, we'll actually hire you full time. And so I think what's helpful for everyone is just reflect back on what you've been doing that actually got you excited, that woke you up in the morning, that kind of kept you interested at night. And for me lately, it's been YouTube stuff. I'm like, all right, like right now I'm making a video about 5 new ways that you can invest money, and most of them are stupid. It's like wine investing, art investing, certain real estate. It's all these new sites that I've seen that are just kind of like off the beaten path. And I just find them really interesting. So it's exciting to be able to share that. And I think for everyone out there, just one, I think learning how to promote in general is an amazing skill, but it's easier to find stuff to promote when you just find stuff you already like. And you're just like, oh my God, I have to tell people about this restaurant or this movie or this book. And I think that's what I've kind of done. Like at AppSumo, we find tools we love and we promote them on the site.